Let the record reflect that all commissioners are present, with the exception of Commissioner Marston, who is excused this evening.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Scully, will you lead us tonight in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. First on our agenda, public comments. Public comments are invited on agenda and non-agenda items generally considered to be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Harbor Commission. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes before speaking. We invite but do not require you to state your name for the record. The Harbor Commission has discretion to extend or shorten the speaker's time limit on agenda or non-agenda items, provided the time limit adjustment is applied equally to all speakers. As a courtesy, please turn cell phones to off or in silent mode. Thank you. Well, we have
Good
a public
afternoon.
comment.
I just have a procedural question. Will there be comment on item 6.1, separate from right now? I imagine there will be, I just wanted to.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, there will be.
Appreciate it.
Additional public comments? Seeing none, we will go to the approval of the minutes. So it's been a few months. I see that we have, Ira, you provided some, correct?
Correct.
Commissioner Scully, you provided some, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I believe we've seen them from Commissioner Marston, right?
Correct.
Have you seen? No? None from Marston, okay. All right. With that, we'll come up to the dais. Any comments on the meeting minutes from our last meeting? None from me. Commissioner Yahn?
None.
Okay, and none from me. Do I have an approval?
Motion to move to approve the minutes per staff report with the additional amendments submitted by Commissioner Scully and myself.
I second.
Forgot to go off for public comment. Are there any additional public comments on the meeting minutes from last meeting? Seeing none? All right, we have a motion and we have a second. We vote?
Motion passes 6-0.
Great. Okay, current business. 6.1 is, second turn to it. Conceptual public dock at Promontory Bay. Harbormaster, do we have a staff report to start with, or will it come right up to us?
I would just introduce Mr. Svrcek to give the presentation.
Okay, Commissioner Svrcek, please take it away.
You have probably the first slide. So the conceptual dock would be located in close proximity to the Bayside Retail Center, which has 3 restaurants, Bayside Restaurant, Sapori, and Java, Pavilion's grocery store, and Rite Aid. So it's there's a lot of services and restaurants and everything real close. I think it's a great location. So you can see where the 2 boats that are coming into Promontory Bay would be right in that area, and then the retail center is right across the street. Next. So one of the locations you can see in the middle, there's boats that are, 3 are red, a yellow, and a blue, are located at the one of the proposed locations with the ramp coming up nearby. What also was superimposed are, you see 2 boats, one coming in and one leaving. Those boats are the same scale as the largest boats in Promontory. So there's quite a bit of room. This channel is 90 foot wide. Where that boat is making the turn, that radius, it's about 110 feet. Next. Okay, so this location is just a little closer to Bayside Drive. It's basically the same layout. It's just pushed closer to Bayside. Okay, next. This is a little blow up. You can see there's a public sidewalk adjacent to the proposed or the conceptual dock, and with the 5 boats. And you can also see the one of the largest boats going into Promontory, so it gives you a little perspective. Next. This demonstrates at a 2.6 medium low tide, the height of a Duffy is well below the patio. The patio of the apartment is just above the pedestrian's head, so there's quite a big difference in elevation. And then you're coming up to a 5-foot tide, and it gets, it's still probably 6 feet below the apartment's patio deck. Next. And then this one is a 7-foot tide, even a little higher, but still does not block any views from the apartments. So I know there was a letter that talked about the safety of this location, and so I went into Google Maps and looked for other examples that had a similar width and similar size boats. So for example, Linda Isle on the eastern portion of Linda Isle, across from Harbor Island Drive, there's a similar width with similar boat sizes. On the north portion of Linda Isle, across from the Soul Restaurant, there's another example of, about the same width channel as what's in Promontory. The Rhine Channel near the Cannery area has there's a number of locations that are it's full of boats with a similar width in channel. And then Dover Shores by Evening Star Lane, again, there's another example of large boats with a similar width. So that's a brief summary. Any comments or questions?
I'll be recorded. Commissioner Scully.
Thank you. Commissioner Svrcek, you said that the width of the channel is 90 feet.
Correct.
And is it 90 feet of navigable water? Or I'm trying to remember, are there some some rocks along the walls there?
There is, you can see the rocks at very low tide, and they probably come out about 2 or 3 feet.
Okay, 2 or 3 feet? Because
from the seawall.
okay, and
That's at very low tide.
right. No, but we have to go with the worst scenario.
Sure.
And the boats that are back there, I've seen them. I mean, there's some 60, 70 footers back there. I I know that there's 60 plus. Is that, do you agree with that?
Visually, my recollection, yeah,
I mean, there's a Michelson back there that's like 64, and
probably.
you know, there's, I'm
That's
trying to
about
remember
right.
some of the other boats. And those beams are probably 18, 19, 20 feet, so we're looking at you know, potentially with a boat coming in and coming out, so we're looking at 40 feet plus space. I'm just trying to get a feel for
Sure.
how much navigable waterways there are in the worst case situation. I know that's part of, you know, concern of the homeowners there. I know, I've heard that. But I'm just curious, so how much that is, so say. Okay. That's my only question.
So, you know, another example, at the Rhine Channel in the summertime, I often see 100-foot boats coming in and leaving at the same time and making the turn. So I think there's quite a bit of room.
Commissioner Yahn?
Kind of on a similar vein of question is the width from the dock, from the seawall to the space off the seawall where the dock looks like a 4-foot width dock to the beam of the boats that could be moored there. What would be considered the outside? How much space are we taking away from that 90 feet? Because given the width of all of the connection, everything, the dock to the boat beams.
Probably 4, 9, 19, 20.
We'd take about 20,
With a boat.
20 off the 90.
Right, with a boat,
If a boat was a wider berth boat was at the dock. Okay.
probably about 20,
Okay.
roughly.
And my other thought is this is meant to be a enhancement, public access enhancement, and also a potential amenity for the people coming to Bayside Center. So
Sure.
they would go off this dock. They could go one of two ways. They could, I know there's a pedestrian public access around all the way through the front of the homes along the dock itself that goes all the way over to Balboa Island, to Newport Beach Yacht Club.
Yes.
That's one access point, and it's also straight out to Bayside Drive. So either way, people can either go to park their boats there, go to Balboa Island, or they can go to Bayside Village, of which they would have to make the walk all the way down to the signal light, the crosswalk. And my only concern would be hoping they don't jaywalk across.
Right, well, I think if you were to go to Bayside Restaurant, you would probably, when you got to the sidewalk, you'd probably go left to the promontory crosswalk.
Yeah.
And then if you went to Sapori's, you'd probably go to the right and to that light and across.
Right, and I actually forgot there was that promontory beach crosswalk, which has a signalized crosswalk.
Right.
That's good. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Vice Chair Beer?
No questions.
Commissioner Williams?
Yeah, and where my mind went was, what is the intent of the document? Sounds like to bring additional business to Bayside Shopping Center. I mean, is that kind of the general consensus here? And then, I may have missed it, but is this intending to be Duffy parking only? Because I look at the renderings and it just showed the height of a Duffy. So is it any boat can park here, given the entire dock?
Well, we could decide on limits. This illustration shows Duffy's and a couple larger boats, 26 and a 30-footer, but we could put our limitations on it as necessary.
A follow out of pure curiosity, where did the request come from? Like, was this a public outreach? Was this a?
No, I was looking for other public docks. I thought, this is a great amenity, and I initially thought that it could be on the public dock that's running from the bridge and around. And I talked to Chris, and we walked it one day, and thought this would be a good location.
Cool.
Thank you.
So some background. before my time, 8 years plus, there was conversation, Harbormaster may recall it, Duffield was pushing for a similar public dock along the rocks, along the jetty there at the end, years ago. And that was before they made the improvements to the Bayside Drive, and they actually put up the crosswalk and the light there. So I don't know the background of whatever happened with that, but perhaps some really good feedback can come from what happened 10 years ago or whenever it was. I am concerned about Promontory Bay, obviously. Their overall desire to have this public dock, and also would love to hear from the urban company as well, what their thoughts would be on this. And but this is really the first step of getting it to the public. Conversations about pros and cons, and talking about all the pros and then all the cons and the pushback that we will ultimately see and hear about. But with that, I'd like to go to public comment and then bring it back to the dais for some more conversation.
I expanded the image out. I think maybe this is what Commissioner Cunningham was just referencing, this gold star on the top. Maybe that's where he had talked about Mr. Duffield putting a dock, or right over here. And
Oh, it was right on the corner.
oh, okay. To me, you folks know more about the specifics of this little inlet than I do. But were something put there or the little star on the lower right, it would seem less of an impediment to navigation. And then if you go to the next slide, I've overlaid from your graphics the boats. And as Commissioner Yahn recalled, there's a crosswalk very close to there. Real quick convenience access to everything across the way. And then this other spot, I've inserted 6 slips in a side tie. That's a vacant spot where that yellow box is on the lower right. And there, it's even less of an impediment to navigation. And as you were talking about walking to businesses on either direction, that might be kind of a center point on that walkway. So you've actually got more boat berthing spaces, less into the navigation channel, and more removed from perhaps homeowners that might be concerned about it. And again, that's a layperson's interpretation. Thank you.
Additional public comment?
Hi, I'm Samantha McDonald. I'm one of the local boards. I made a similar comment to the Coastal Commission about the public docks as I like to do now, which I really encourage you to think about making sure that one, fishing is allowed, because the new public dock that was made on the Pacific Coast Highway does not allow fishing, which I don't really understand the logic, because a lot of other docks do, so I encourage that. I also see the public docks are supposed to be access to the water, not access from the water for a lot of people. So for people to be able to bring their kayaks to and from shore, for people to access and get their boats for pickup, but it's really hard when there's no public parking, or if there's no access, or if it's a quarter-mile walk to have to bring your kayak to the public dock to use it. So I really encourage thinking about that as well. But for this design in this space, it would be really great to think about, one, having more extended, more than 3-hour parking, because that's just very limiting, especially if you're just going and enjoying yourself at these different locations, but also having the ability to fish there. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the dais. Yes, certainly I think more outreach, feedback. Well, first let me ask, any additional comments from the dais on this? Commissioner Yahn?
Yeah, I just want to applaud Commissioner Svrcek's ideas. As we all know, some of our functional objectives are increasing amenities and access to the bay. We have sort of a limited supply of openings of where we can do that. This seems kind of like a nice, kind of a wide open opportunity to have this discussion. Whether it passes the muster or not, we'll have to sort of see as we progress forward. But I really like the idea of having that there and having people access both Balboa Island and Bayside. It just will take a little bit of engineering review, comments. I think it's a process ahead of us, but this is how good ideas start. Gotta plant the seed and move forward. And I would also like to see any other, maybe historical documentation if this was tried before, where we can learn from that and maybe dig up the archives, see what was written about it or what happened, good or bad. My comments, thank you.
Additional comment? Dias? Anyone?
I was just gonna say, I appreciate the backstory a little bit, that this was looked at before. I mean, in theory, I'm absolutely in support of doing something over there, but it seems like the secondary proposed location would make a whole lot more sense. But before we dig into it, I'm in support of something, but looking forward to how this process pans out.
When you said secondary location, the one around the corner, close to
Yeah, I mean, I'm
the
very familiar with that area, because we've all been back there plenty of times. I'm thinking how I navigate those waters in that secondary location we saw in the rendering. Seems to me like it would make a little bit more sense.
Yeah, I think the historical suggestion was along the rocks, along that walk path on Bayside, closer to the traffic signal, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Commissioner Yahn. I mean, the more docks, the better, more access to and from, the better. But Promontory Bay and Irvine Company are two key opinions in that area. That would be good to get some feedback from them as we formalize this and show it to them.
Is the Irvine Company a stakeholder in Promontory Bay?
I don't believe they are, but they're a stakeholder. Who owns the condos, the waterfront?
It's privately owned.
Privately owned?
It's not the Irvine Company.
But all of the businesses across the street,
Correct.
which is what you're
That's what I'm-
potentially servicing, is definitely Irvine Company.
That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Keith?
Oh, and then I don't mean to open up a can of worms here, but then you think about the other point of this is how much of their parking lot's gonna be impacted by people parking there and running across the street and hopping on a boat, right? And parking impact and all that. There's a lot to this.
They have that issue today, up and down that block. They hire security guards all the time because there's this thing called Balboa Island, right around the corner. Bigger draw. Okay, all right. Receive and file is the appropriate action at this point.
I think it would be helpful to Commissioner Svrcek and the staff that supports him if they got a little bit of direction from you guys, just in terms of the viability of this and whether you want more effort spent on it.
So a suggestion would be to do a little preliminary engineering, not extensive, to refine it a little more, and then work on a public outreach.
Well, I absolutely agree with the public outreach. That is, absolutely want to hear more feedback from the waterfront, Promontory, Basin Marine, and the business of Irvine Company across the street. I think all four of those, we're looking for immediate feedback. This isn't something that we're screaming about, gotta have this. So, but it very well may be, as people think through this, it might be a great idea. And of course, we're gonna have some pushback as well from the local community. So engineering, what are you suggesting there?
Just, I talked to Chris, he thought we could refine it without spending a lot of money, just to, I don't know exactly, but get, more detailed on the dimensions and length and everything.
Do we need any type of formal action for us to ask staff to spend a little bit more time on giving some better graphics for us to talk about more public outreach?
No formal action is required, just some verbal direction.
Vice Chair, if I could say, I think one thing I think that needs to be done to get a little clarity is, one is taking into consideration public comment, taking into consideration what we've talked about here this evening, doing some research as it relates to what was done in the past, I think is important. And I do, you know, the one thing when I look at where the position is at right now and thinking about it is, someone comes in with a 50 or 60 footer at 8 o'clock at night, parks there, the harbor department's closed, and people are trying to come in. You know, we need to think about if something like that happens, because if you look at the public dock down there, you know, at the end of the Rhine Channel, I see some big boats parked there at night. So, you know, I think we should take a bird's eye view and say, you know, what is the optimum spot, and what happened in the past, and where, you know, once we choose that optimum spot, then I think you do engineering, you know, do the preliminary engineering, and the public outreach. I don't know what else you would do. That's just my opinion.
If you would like, just to show that the support or the comments from the Harbor Commission, we could make a motion to, no motion needed? Okay, I was gonna say that, just say, hey, it's a good idea, and we can pass it on to the next step, but that's my position, is it's good enough for me, just let's take it to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, we have objectives to talk about this for public access. We continue to discuss it. I think we have some preliminary questions. Let's continue to talk about it on a monthly basis, and as it gets some traction, we'll keep moving it forward, if that works. Okay, receive and file. All right. All right, moving on to 6.2 ad hoc committee updates. Balboa Ferry ad hoc committee. Commissioner Scully, any updates for this month?
I do. Thank you, Chair Cunningham. Just an update. I had a good conversation a couple of days ago with Joe Beek. It seems to me that they've made some pretty significant progress on their quest for grant funding to be able to replace the boats. His team is working on a clear line of sight with 2 specific grants. They've been approved for one, which is a Carl Moyer grant, which is for older equipment. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. The Carl Moyer program to destroy the engines in the boat and replace the boat. And also working on a joint California Resources Board South Coast Air Quality Management grant, which would be, you know, about $8 million. And talking to Joe, they're having very good progress, and they've been it's been articulated verbally that they're going to be moving forward, and that the money that's there is specific for the Newport ferry. They've engaged a marine architect in San Diego that has done work on ferries, hybrids and electric ones that are in San Francisco. And you know, their intent is to build new ferries that are exact same size and look like the ferries that are there today. And then I know there was some tug of war a little bit with the city on where to put the power in order for the charging infrastructure, and that sounds like it's coming to a conclusion, and they've got agreement on where they're going to be putting meters and larger power supplies for the charging. So very good, very positive, and you know, as soon as that grant for the South Coast Air Quality Management District and the CARB gets deployed, then I think it's a go. They'll move forward on architecture and then into construction. That concludes.
Great, thank you for the update. Any additional updates on the Balboa ferries? Good enough? All right. General plan update. Again, Commissioner Scully, any update for the month?
Sure. I participated in a Zoom call for the GPAC Harbor and Beaches, the Harbor Bay and Beaches Subcommittee. Kurt Black had a call on November 26th, and the call was really planning for a workshop that was held December 5th in Marina Park. And he's not here this evening, but I wanted to thank Mr. Mosier for, he sent the dates of those meetings to the ad hoc committee, and he also provided some documentation, which I'll talk about here in a second. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the workshop on December 5th. On the subcommittee call, I did offer to email the date and time and location of the workshop to quite a majority of the harbor users. And from talking to Kurt, a number of them showed up and participated in the workshop, so it was great to get map holders and users of the harbor to participate in that. The workshop was a first-hand overview of the general plan elements inclusive of the harbor bay and beach element. It was a little bit more than that. And they covered their guiding values, ideas to support the harbor elements, and a segment on land use of Newport to accommodate the future of our community. So there was a handout from the workshop that was provided. I'm going to give it to Cynthia. And if you're interested, it's a very good read. I know this general plan has been hard to kind of figure out where we fit in and what's going on, and it does really a good job of explaining where they're taking it right now. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Public dock utilization ad hoc. Commissioner Beer?
Nothing to report there.
What comment on ad hocs? Okay, going out to public comments on any of the ad hoc committee updates.
Just point of order, Mr. Chairman, I believe that there are two members of the audience who are misinformed about the start time for this meeting. That they wish to provide public comments on an item that's been heard already, item 6.1. You can entertain those.
We can entertain it, absolutely.
Great, thank you very much.
There was no motion, by the way, just if you missed anything, there was just discussion and kick the can down the road for another month.
Sorry, I'm late. I was told 5:30 when it started, and so I would have been here on time.
No problem.
I apologize. My name is Ken Rinker. I'm on the HOA board of Promontory Bay. My address is 707 Bayside Drive. Many neighbors have commented already about this proposed dock that is being proposed, and they are adamantly against it for many reasons. One is that there are boats capable of 80 feet or more in Promontory Bay because they have side-tied docks. So you can get a very, very large boat, multiple boats back there. There's 61 homes back there. And again, I'm on the HOA board, we've discussed it, and I'll get to the bottom line, we're adamantly opposed to it for many, many reasons. That is a sharp corner to turn, and I take my boat out at night all the time, and I come in at night all the time, I go fishing. So I'll depart at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday, come back Sunday at 8:30, 9, 10 o'clock at night. So I am using it all the time, that is a sharp corner. And the curve at that point is blind. It's a blind curve. So whether there's a boat there or not, you're using the whole middle to come around there. It's dark at night. The channel is just too narrow for two large boats to be crossing there at the same time. And if the dock is there, it's not policed at night. And putting not only a dock, but a boat side-tied on that dock, and then two boats trying to pass, it's a safety issue. There's no doubt about it. The other thing is that it may limit boats to 14 feet, but they're not policed enough. I travel the harbor all the time, and I see boats oversized on these public docks for extended lengths of time. Putting a dock there, in my opinion, is going to damage the values of the 61 homes that are in Promontory Bay, because word's going to get out. And anybody buying a house back there, 90% of the people, have a boat or they're going to use a boat. And word's going to get out about that, and I think it's damaging to the home values. We have talked about it at the HOA board level. We have other homeowners here tonight who will give their commentary as well. but we are adamantly opposed to it. And lastly, I've been told just yesterday that the sheriff department side ties up against the seawall where the condos and the apartments are, because the guys want to go in and get a sandwich. And I don't think the sheriff department should be doing that in the first place. I'd be happy to buy them lunch once a month, should they not park there, and not put a dock in. So, thank you for taking my comments.
We appreciate it. The sheriffs are not the only ones that tie up on that wall over there. The Duffy service people often tie up on there and go across the street to get sandwiches. So I live in the area too, so I'm quite familiar with it.
Thank you very much
So,
for your consideration.
Unless there's something more that I think you wanted to speak as well. Okay, if there's something different than what's already been heard, let's make it quick.
Yes, hi, I'm Chad Hall, I'm president of the HOA at Promontory Bay, and it's just a couple of points that might have been missed by Ken. I was agreeing with Steve that someone could park a big boat there going to the restaurant, or other way around, parking at the restaurant and trying to get on a boat. The parking there isn't for boat launching, and it's a danger if you get a big boat on the dock and another boat coming by at night. People are drinking. There's definitely a safety issue and a traffic issue. For one restaurant and a grocery store, how many people are going to be doing that? They're going to be going to the restaurant, and there's no crosswalk, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, unless,
Just one.
sure.
I live at 621 Bayside. I have about a 50-foot boat, and I've traveled in and out of there. I've lived there for about 20 years. And even when I'm coming around the corner and I'm heading down the channel, and a Duffy's coming at me, it's kind of tight because the Duffys are kind of squirrely, and it's kind of a danger issue. And even with a big boat coming at me, I don't know how big this dock's gonna be, the depth of it. But they always have to have a little room, and then they have the deep ADA ramps and all that. If you go out like 10 feet, that's gonna be a problem. I can tell you right now, but thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, we're going to move on to 6.3, Harbor Commission 2024/2025 objectives. I will not read them off, but, public comment on, I did that, and that's, okay. Any additional comment on the ad hocs? I went to the group. I didn't see any. We got the bonus comments, and so now we're back. So we're going to move on to 6.3. Thank you, everybody, for the gyrations. Okay, going back here to the dais on the objective for this year. I will start on the right side. Commissioner Scully, any updates that you have on some of the goals and assignments that we have?
Just going through them. I don't have any update on the Water Quality Bowl Coastal Tideline Committee. I haven't been there in a couple of months. I don't know if Commissioner Svrcek, I know you've been going to them.
Yes, this week or last week, it was primarily on their goals and objections. That was kind of the focus.
Okay. I have nothing to report on any updates on the safety committee on objective number 6, and nothing to report on the review of the Harbor Department responsibilities.
Okay, Commissioner Yahn.
My functional area is conducting the annual review of Title 17 and recommend updates to City Council. And then collaboration with the Harbor Department. We are collecting ideas and thoughts that we can present at a future meeting, but it is consistently being reviewed for ways of improving and adding to updating our amended Title 17. Nothing to report on that matter. And my other area is work with staff to identify opportunities to add additional harbor services, additional pump out stations, dock space, shore boat service, boat launch ramp. We've had a couple false starts with a potential shore boat service company, still out there. I think maybe in the works. Not sure yet if it will come to fruition, but we are keeping our eyes open for these types of opportunities. and nothing to report on that today. Thank you.
Commissioner Beer, any updates for Vice Chair Beer?
Yes, thank you. Item 3, implementation of the mooring reconfiguration initiative. The Coastal Commission, as most of you know, did not approve the CDP last week, so the ad hoc committee will probably meet over the next month or so, decide whether to amend this objective or take other action. And as far as number 8, cities working with city staff on an update of the market rent for onshore and offshore moorings, has no change since last month. That is waiting for response from state lands. That's it.
Great, Commissioner Williams?
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Svrcek? Okay, I've got a couple things. First, on number 10, the dredging is proceeding. I think they are, the CAD is no longer the CAD. They found a option up in Long Beach. So the unsuitable material will be going to Long Beach. We've signed the MOU with on that, and I know they're going out to dredge. Go out to bid on the proposal here in the next 30, 60 days. And I'd be shocked if we don't see a shovel in the ground in 2025. Hopefully I'm still on the commission when we see the first dredge equipment come into the harbor, but we will we'll know probably more in 30 to 60 days the timing of it, but it's happening, it's going. So that's good news. Also, kind of similar to it, eelgrass, we do an eelgrass survey every 2 years, and I know they're tightening up the final numbers, and the numbers look good. It's quite important to the harbor and the health of the harbor, and so I'll probably ask that either you or I or someone like that go over it briefly in an upcoming meeting, perhaps next month. It should take no more than a couple minutes to go over the eelgrass survey. And finally, I think we need to formally add Rudy to objective number 5. That really, dock space and things like that, I think with Rudy working on this right now, would we need a motion to add Commissioner Svrcek to objective number 5?
I think, sorry, excuse me. You can certainly make a motion to add him to objective 5.
Or just put his name in there?
Yeah, you can just make the recommendation that because there are only 2 commissioners assigned to that objective, a third can be added with the concurrence of your colleagues.
How about a straw vote here, all in concurrence? All right.
How about Rudy? Is he concurrent?
He is. Got the thumbs up? Let's make that change. Thank you. All right. Going out to public comment on the commissioner goals and objectives.
Again, Commissioner Yahn, you mentioned that you're collecting ideas on Title 17. Has there been outreach to the stakeholders so that they can provide ideas? And if not, what's the best way to do that? Thank you.
Well, it started with a few years ago where we had so many different changes to Title 17. We put someone in charge of just logging them as they came up during the year. And that's really the basis of it. So if there's any ideas or feedback from the public, you're welcome to submit them anytime.
Yeah, and then I'll just echo that. We don't have a formal venue for a public, anything formalized, but obviously, as he says, if the public has recommendations or interest in changing any of this, they could certainly reach out to the Harbor Department, make those submittals. Harbor Department is collecting those. And what we do is really more or less respond to where we see there's issues relating to the harbor and enforcement of the harbor, things that we think need to be relooked at. So those are usually on a one-off basis, but we don't really have a comprehensive review plan. We've done that once, and as our chair, Cunningham has mentioned, we just are now working out some of the rough edges.
Any additional public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back here and we'll move on to item number 6.4, Harbormaster update for November, December, and January. Doesn't mean you get 3 times the amount of time, but you certainly could have as much time as you would like.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Paul Blank, your Harbormaster. There's an extensive written report. I'm going to refer you to that for most of the details. This presentation will cover just a few highlights. In terms of keeping the harbor clean, we did conduct a vessel arrest, the first time since the Harbor Department has existed. It was a comprehensive and exhaustive process. The boat remains in our custody as arrested. Its disposition will be decided in the next 45 days once we get a court order to move forward with an auction. It will be a one-off auction for that vessel only. We responded to various discharge and spills throughout the 3 months, all of which were successful. We have placed, or with our colleagues in the Utilities Department, there are now new trash receptacles on all the public docks. It only took 2.5 years to get those approved and put on there, but now every single public dock and most of the public piers have trash receptacles on them. Should add to keeping the harbor clean. And a specific vessel, this is the first time it's happened, a specific vessel visiting was die-tabbed and failed their die-tab test and were asked to immediately leave the harbor. The images that you see there on the top are the new trash receptacles at the 15th Street Public Dock, and on the lower image you see one of the finials that was recently refurbished at the M Street Dock. Also of note in cleanliness, the trash interceptor at the mouth of the San Diego Creek is now fully deployed. It's not 100% operational, but in the first big rain a couple of weeks ago, this was the debris that was collected at the base of San Diego Creek, and we're very pleased that it was captured and collected there as opposed to flowing into Upper Newport Bay and eventually Lower Newport Bay. In terms of keeping the harbor safe, significant preparation for and responses to the severe weather incidents have occurred over the last 3 months. There's another severe weather warning for this week, and additional patrols have been put in place, additional notifications have been sent. We actually did receive praise from another agency for our severe weather notifications. There's a member of a brother agency that is a mooring permittee. He saw our notifications and wondered how he could get them deployed in his agency, and we gave him direction on that. We conducted a towing test using the new all-electric harbor vessel, and it was very, very successful. That vessel towed another much heavier and larger vessel for more than 2.5 hours. It consumed less than the expected electricity and maneuvered very, very well in all conditions. We serviced all the fire extinguishers and replaced the cabinets at Marina Park. And lastly, there was a very funny rescue that involved a dog that went overboard from an electric vessel. The electric vessel's operator went overboard to rescue the dog, leaving only 2 passengers who were not qualified to operate the vessel aboard with the boat in gear. Thankfully, there was a Harbor Department vessel nearby. They wrangled the runaway vessel, got aboard, put it out of gear, towed it to a nearby public dock where the boat, the 2 passengers, the dog, and the operator were all safely reunited. The images on the right show our electric vessel pulling the much heavier and extensive tow vessel in one of the 2 towing configurations. This is an actual fore and aft tow as opposed to a hip tow. But for 2.5 hours, that vessel went out and towed that other boat around in various configurations. And then the lower image shows Deputy Harbormaster Cozy Line actually lying on the dock performing one of the fire cabinet replacements. Who knew he was so handy with tools? And that's a Harbor Service worker now providing supervision so the tools didn't go overboard. In terms of well enjoyed, there have been some berthing issues resolved with a new management plan at the Peninsula Village. Concerns from a permittee in the A field, which were lengthy and voluminous, have all been addressed to the best of our ability, and she is not currently she's not currently bombarding staff with additional concerns, but significant staff time was spent addressing a myriad of concerns expressed by that permittee in the A field. We did conduct and support a successful Christmas boat parade, which resulted in no major incidents. The conflict between permitted harbor events was resolved for 2 events that are scheduled the same period in March, highlighting the need and the benefits of that harbor events permitting system. If you want the details, just ask. And then lastly, we were the recipients of 3 new burgees in the Harbor Department office, which have been installed in the waiting vestibule. And there's images capturing our burgee collection, hopefully showing a welcoming display to people who visit our offices. In terms of odds and ends, discretion was used to ensure that a positive outcome for a particular vessel of concern. A vessel in one of the mooring fields had become dilapidated and uncared for. It was determined that the owner had passed away and that his surviving spouse was not capable or really even interested in taking care of that boat, as opposed to taking enforcement action to remedy the situation on the boat. We were able to grant a little bit of extra time and get the boat successfully sold to a new happy owner who has taken it out of the harbor. We have completed our annual carb reporting and filed that on all 4 of our patrol vessels. And the most amusing call of the month had to do with the number of mooring assists the Harbor Department has provided throughout its history. There you see in the lower table the number of mooring assists we were called to perform and actually did perform in the various calendar years. That averages out to about 189 mooring assists we provide every year. So to those who say the Harbor Department is not providing mooring assists, I have evidence to the contrary. Late breaking news you've already heard about, that the pilot project was rejected by the Coastal Commission. Additional late breaking news, just today we were notified that our long awaited safety video for rental customers in the harbor.
Welcome to Newport Harbor. We're glad you've chosen to enjoy the largest recreational harbor on the West Coast. The City of Newport Beach Harbor Department is here to help ensure your experience is clean, safe, and well enjoyed. Whether you're here to rent an electric boat, personal watercraft, paddleboard, kayak, sailboat, or simply enjoy the day on Harborside Beach, we have some important safety information to help guide you on the water. Newport Harbor is a popular and heavily trafficked waterway, home to a variety of vessels, including large and small sailboats, motorboats, kayaks, and paddleboards. With so many different types of watercraft sharing the same space, it is crucial that all operators stay aware of their surroundings and prioritize safety and responsible seamanship. Let's walk you through some key rules and tips to ensure your time on the water is as safe as it is enjoyable. Make sure there are enough life jackets that properly fit everyone on board. Parents, California law requires that children 13 and under wear a life jacket at all times while on the water. Life jackets should be snug but comfortable. Remember, life jackets are essential for flotation and visibility, even if you're a strong swimmer. Before setting off on your adventure, rental concession operators should provide a comprehensive safety briefing. This includes essential information about operating your rental vessel, local regulations, and emergency procedures. The rental staff will explain important details about the boat, personal watercraft, paddleboard, or kayak you're using, including how to operate it, what to do in an emergency, and where safety equipment can be found. See the staff for a map of the harbor and familiarize yourself with the navigational channels. The harbor includes more than 880 acres of tidelands with several navigatable channels. Slower, less maneuverable craft should navigate to the edges of the channels. The speed limit in the Newport Harbor is 5 miles per hour and no wake. Respect other boaters, swimmers, and wildlife. Maintain a safe speed, especially near docks and crowded areas, and always stay well away from other vessels and swimmers. The main navigational channel runs through the center of the harbor, providing access to the Pacific Ocean. To the north, you'll find the Upper Newport Bay, a perfect spot for paddleboarding and kayaking. The Balboa Peninsula, to the west, offers stunning views and a variety of amenities. For your convenience, public restrooms are located throughout the harbor. These facilities are maintained regularly to ensure cleanliness and accessibility. Please make use of these amenities and help keep our harbor clean and beautiful by disposing of trash properly, never in the water. While out on the water, be vigilant and maintain an awareness of other mariners in front of, behind, and around you. Also, keep an eye out for changing weather conditions, including wind, fog, and strong currents. If you're unsure about the weather or water conditions, don't hesitate to ask the rental staff for advice before heading out. The waters of Newport Beach are beautiful and full of possibilities, but just like any adventure, safety comes first. By following these simple steps, you'll ensure your time on the water is not only fun, but safe for you, your friends, and everyone else out there. For more information on vessel safety, visit our website or speak with your rental agent today. Stay safe and enjoy Newport Harbor.
Thank you for indulging me. That represents more than 3 years worth of work in the making. It will be available on our website as early as tomorrow. It will be provided to all of the rental concession operators, and we will strongly recommend that they show them to their customers. At this point, there are no plans to compel rental operators to show it to their customers, but we know of at least one rental operator who plans to have it on a loop in their rental concession office. In terms of improved statistics, this is the activities for all of 2024. It represents 24,000 calls for service, again about 2,000 per month, and you see the heat map there throughout the harbor. I think we did a pretty good job of covering the harbor and in a few locations outside the harbor in 2024. Here is the harbor amenity map usage, which continues to be strong. Here is our activity in terms of permit issuance. I note that 74 marine activities permits were issued last year. That is the most number ever on record. This is the previous year where harbor events were 64 and line work uses were 51. Again, more activity in 2024 than 2023. Next year you'll get the marine activity permit segment of the pie as well. Here was the activity in our anchorages in December. December was a very busy month for usage of the anchorages. Here's January, not so busy. Weather hasn't been so great, not so many people on holiday. Here's a reminder that the cost breakdown of the services that we offer in this fiscal year look like this and comprise our $2.8 million operating budget. The blue bars on the left are the services that the city was enjoying before the Harbor Department was created in 2017. The 9 bars to the right are all services that have been added at your direction and the direction of the City Council and the City Manager since the Harbor Department was formed. You'll note the most significant activity we engage in is code enforcement, and that was an activity not being engaged in for the deployment of the Harbor Department. Our 2024 revenue for mooring sub-permits and slip rentals at Marina Park, this is all the visitor serving stuff, went down a little bit from just under 1.5 to just over 1.4 million. It still represents an average annual increase of 22% for the years that we've been in business. Lastly, the customer service survey for 2024 again shows high marks for those people who take the time and trouble to complete our guest surveys, either as a sub-permittee or a guest in the marina at Marina Park. I highlight for you that the bottom of the graph is a 4.5 rating out of 5. The top of the graph represents a 5 rating out of 5. So all metrics are between 4.5 and 5.0 on a scale of 1 to 5. Here's our regular statistics, year-over-year statistics. That's your report for a significant amount of activity in November, December, and January.
Thank you, Harbormaster Glenn. Bring it up to the dais. Commissioner Scully?
Yes, please. Paul, the trash cans that you're putting on the public docks, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a really big addition, I think. Maybe when we're going out to the rental companies for the video or whatever, we might want to let them know about that. It might be a good thing to communicate to their customers because a lot of trash comes from that area. Just one question on that. Who's responsible for emptying those trash cans? I noticed it in your report, it says it's getting done on a frequent basis, but who's doing that?
The contract is with CR and Arch.
Oh, okay, so
remove the debris from the cans.
It's not the Harbor Service worker doing that?
It is correct, it is not the Harbor Service worker.
Good, good, okay.
We are responsible for the maintenance of the exterior of the cans. So if the cans get dirty or misused, we will correct that, but they are being emptied by a contractor.
Okay, great addition, thank you.
Commissioner Yahn?
I applaud your efforts at the communication flow with the rental agencies. That video was very nice. I know we started before kind of with the where are the restrooms in the harbor map. And I think we're still giving that out. Is that still like a QR code?
Correct.
So if someone's in a Duffy, they have a QR code, they can go on it and it'll pull up the local restrooms to where they're located on the bay.
Correct, and this graph indicates the usage of that QR code.
Oh, that's the graph for that, okay. Yeah, and maybe there could be an addition layer of where the trash cans are, since those are new on the bay. Maybe that's an added thing. Thanks.
Vice Chair Bear?
Thank you, Mr. Harbormaster. Just want to take the opportunity because some time has passed, but congratulate you on a great job during that boat parade. That went real smooth and it was definitely noticed, so thank you for that. I want to know if you have a breakdown or just high level, what caused the drop, in your opinion, of the revenue on the sub-permits from year over year versus the aggregate?
The very simple answer was the poor weather in January, February, and March of 2024.
So that graph was just a quarterly year over year?
This graph,
But those 3 months caused that? Yeah, it's an annual.
right, so those are calendar years. Those are calendar years, not
Okay.
fiscal years.
Got it.
But the very poor weather at the beginning of 2024 greatly impacted.
That was enough to impact it. Got it. Okay, thank you. And then you'd mentioned that a vessel failed the DITAP test, and I'm just curious, I'm assuming that they saw leakage and they had to exit, but what's the process for that boat to come back? Is there a time that they cannot, or what do they need to do? And then is there a fine for that? And just also just for educational, what's the fine if somebody actually intentionally dumps and they're caught for that, and the process for them to come back in the harbor?
I'm not sure I'm going to get the answers in the same order you asked the questions, but the order to leave the harbor remains in effect for 1 year after the DITAB test has failed. There is the opportunity to write a citation with financial penalties associated with it. The fine for that particular citation is $1,000. We can also refer it to other agencies that may take action or not. The particular vessel that failed this test is well known to the Harbor Department and has been a frequent visitor in the harbor. They have occasionally sub-permitted moorings for us. They are not particularly good at paying their bills, so we did not feel it was in anyone's best interest to write an administrative citation with financial penalty. We agreed to let them go without that as long as they paid their past due amounts owed for previous sub-permits. So that was a complicated answer, but the vessel is gone for a year. The vessel is paid in full for all of their previous sub-permits. We'll consider sub-permitting to them again in a year, or they can come back and use the anchorage for free in a year.
And I assume before we let them in, we do another dye test.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Williams?
Great job as always. There was one stat that I'm just curious about. So you mentioned that, I don't remember the exact number, but calls for service for mooring permit holders. So I think the map.
Not necessarily mooring permit holders, but calls for mooring assists for a sub-permittee or a permittee. Could be either.
Do we segment out what those calls are for specifically?
That is assistance getting on or off a mooring. So if a visitor
And nothing else, just that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Those statistics right there, and it's on the bigger chart. It's a line item if your eyes are that good. But this is one line item on the bigger statistics scorecard. This is the line item for mooring assists by calendar year. And those can, there's a lengthy explanation there was a lengthy explanation to the Coastal Commission on how somebody would arrange for mooring assist. You can contact the Harbor Department in our regular hours of operation by calling our front desk, by calling us on VHF channel 17. You could send us an email, but the response would be not as quick as a phone call or a VHF call. But in the case of a phone call to our front desk or a VHF call for assistance, we respond as quickly as possible in a prioritized manner. If we're saving lives or doing some other activity, it may take 30 to 60 minutes, but there's also a protocol for what you do if you are waiting for a mooring assist. You go to free anchorage, you go to a public dock, or you come to Marina Park. We'll assist you as soon as we can. But though the breakdown of those statistics between actual mooring permittees and sub-permittees is probably 2/3, 1/3. That is 2/3 for existing mooring permittees and 1/3 visiting boaters.
Is this just infrequent calls, or do we have a handful of mooring permittees that continue to call in an effort to need assistance to get other mooring?
I'm not aware of anybody who is who overly uses this amenity. We don't have anybody who more frequently than others calls for this service.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
Commissioner Svrcek?
Could you go back to the trash receptor slide? It looks like a pretty significant amount of trash. That had nothing to do with the rain? That was before any rain? That's just natural stuff that comes down the river?
No, sir, that is after the first rain.
Oh,
So this is at the beginning of January, I think it was January 9th or 10th, was the first rain day, and the booms were deployed. So that was the first flush that came down San Diego Creek as a result of the rain.
Wow, that's significant. Thank you.
Incredibly significant, and much better to be captured there than allowed to flow into the harbor.
Absolutely.
I think we're lucky that it was a light rain. It kind of makes sense that with a light rain, you capture that initial flow in. This is the second rain coming this weekend, and it's going to be a big one. And I think it was designed to break away, right? At some point, there was too much coming down the chute that it just gets overwhelmed and they break it.
It is possible that the booms can be overwhelmed. I'm not sure how that happens or whether they break away or whether they are set free. My suspicion is that the utilities crew that is responsible for the operation here would actually set the booms free if they saw them being overwhelmed, so they would not be damaged.
Find out tomorrow night. Maybe. Great job, thank you so much. Sorry it's been a couple months since we've allowed you to report to us, but we'll be back next month. We'll go out to public comment on the Harbormaster's report.
I know this is a question, but I'm just trying to find out how the information regarding help getting back on mooring is being provided to all the mooring permittees and people who visit the harbor, because I've never gotten anything like that. Thanks.
Hey, Adam Loverns again. I wanted to quote something from the Harbormaster's update. Quote, "It came to light that the Harbor Department is only allowed to keep and maintain 3 vessels within the city's master vehicle plan. We submitted a program enhancement request to keep the 4th boat, which allows us to maintain 33% more visibility on the water, among other benefits. We'll know in June whether we can keep 4 vessels or we will have to sell off the oldest vessel in our fleet." Close quote. If you recall, the procurement process for the electric boat, purchased with, I think, $300,000 of grant money, we were led to believe that it was a replacement vessel. And in fact, in an article in the Daily Pilot of August 31st, 2024, the Harbormaster said, quote, "The Harbor Department has a fleet of work vessels and we were overdue for the replacement of one of them in particular. So this boat made perfect sense in terms of a replacement." I think we're all aware that the Harbor Department operates at a pretty significant financial deficit. I read the Harbormaster's LinkedIn profile yesterday. There are multiple references to budgeting and fiscal and cutting overhead and cutting staff by up to 50%, procedures and process. And I just felt like being told that this was to replace a vessel and now there's going to be 33% more. I don't know if that was a recalculation at some point, but I would like to see some of the mindset that was exhibited in the private sector applied to the expenditure of public funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Hi, Samantha McDonald again, Live Board. I just wanted to comment on the mooring assist program because I really appreciate it, and I think the department helps a lot with the mooring field in general. I will say that we haven't had the greatest track record with getting correct assistance. For example, my partner and I came back from Mexico after our second cruising season and requested help for getting our mooring lines on. And the staffer who came on the radio was super great. He said, pull up to the dock, we'll help you in a few, like 45 minutes when you arrive. But then we called back and said, hey, we're ready. We wanted to get help with the mooring lines because we just got back. And another staffer came on and said, we don't do that type of help. So I think sometimes getting some clarity and making sure all staff are aware of the mooring assistance has not been present, at least for us in our experience in the past. We did eventually get help from a staffer that was super great. But when they tied our mooring lines on, they put a big knot on each side of the end, which made it more unsafe trying to get on our mooring. So it wasn't the best experience getting help from the harbor department of trying to get back our mooring. We just sailed 15 days back from sea. Actually, that time it was just my partner Michael. The first time we came back, we were woken up at very early in the morning after being upwind for 15 days at sea with a broken engine and a broken autopilot, saying that how long we were going to stay on our mooring for, even though we have the permit for the mooring and it's been our only boat that's ever been there. So I think some clarity on the assistance and keeping track of boats would be super appreciated with that assistance.
Thank you for your feedback. Additional comment, please?
And when I got back to, Michael Spano, when I got back to my mooring, I was promptly billed as a mooring subcommittee the very next morning, which I find odd, since I am the committee to that mooring. But, praise. I like the QR code for the bathrooms. I think it'd be super cool if they were on all the public docks. That's just my opinion. I think it'd be really nice. A lot of people visit the public docks, fishermen, things like that, and they don't know where to go use the facilities. So if they're on Duffy's, it would be really cool if they were also in the public spaces that people frequent and don't know where to use the bathroom. Thank you.
Thank you. We get a lot of feedback. Spent a lot of time talking about bathrooms in the last couple of years on the harbor.
It's important.
All right. Any additional public comments on the Harbormaster report? Seeing none. Any additional comments up here at the dash on the report? Seeing none. Item number 7, motion for reconsideration. It's been a long time. Anybody have a memory? The motion to reconsider the vote of any action taken by the Harbor Commission at this meeting may be made only by one of the commission members who voted with the prevailing side. Motions for reconsideration. Seeing none. Item number 8, commissioner announcements.
Thank you, Chair Cunningham. I have 2 announcements. First of all, and I know I ran into Commissioner Svrcek, but we, both of us did a tour of the Coast Guard boat Narwhal that was put together, I think, by the Balboa Yacht Club. And it was a great tour. So great to meet the people that are working on the boat. Really nice women and men, and very open, and enjoyed seeing the boat. Not the most comfortable living quarters, but it was a good tour, good talk, and great to have them in our harbor and there for us. The second item I'd like to talk about is that last Wednesday, the 5th of February, I attended the California Coastal Commission meeting on the Seafield Optimization Test. The meeting was the final approval required to advance the mooring optimization test in the Seafield that we'd all been working on for the last couple of years. As you know, the California Coastal Commission rejected this plan 8-1. So first off, I'd like to thank Chair Cunningham and our Vice Chair Cunningham, or Chair Cunningham and Vice Chair Beer for all the work that they put into this subcommittee. This objective took hundreds of hours of work on numbers of fronts. Additionally, I'd like to thank Harbormaster Blank for the countless hours of follow-up and support that he provided all participants on this objective. And I'd like to thank the Harbor Commission and City Council for the time they spent listening and working on the objective to make Newport Harbor better. Unfortunately, our submission to the Coastal Commission and the work that had been done did not resonate with 8 of the 9 commissioners. I have to say it's a sad day for Newport Harbor and what this significant improvement would have delivered to the 7 million plus users of our harbor.
Thank you. Any additional commissioner announcements? Seeing none, item number 9, matters which commissioners would like placed on a future agenda for discussion, action, or report. Seeing none, item number 10, the date and time for the next meeting is Wednesday, March the 12th at 5 p.m. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you for attending.
Took one out.